sad. I posted this out months since the sad music has come out.
Oh, how the tables have turned.
Oh no.
We watched that video not that long ago with such joy, with the happy music, with the lit
so
music.
True.
We should have known. I think we kind of did know.
We kind of
didn't want to point the elephant in the room, but if you don't know what you're watching, this is the DNBA show. We go live every weeknight at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, Fridays at noon. It's a Tuesday night, which means I'm your host tonight, Brendan Vogt. Not really sure what to do with this music and this energy.
Nope, you just ride it. You just ride the energy, man. It's not done.
Above me, certainly bummed out like the rest of us. That's Adam Maras. Adam?
I am bummed out, like the rest of you.
Thanks. Can confirm. To the left of Adam, always practical. Maybe he can walk us off the ledge here. It's Harrison Wind.
I mean, fittingly, I had a terrible Peloton ride today.
No.
Terrible.
Should have known.
Yeah, fittingly.
And a man searching desperately for light, only to find more darkness around every corner, it seems. It's Eric Weedham, also known as D-Line Co., at the end of his rope.
Yeah, what a terribly accurate depiction of my life. I don't really appreciate that, but it's absolutely fitting. It's very apt. There's no light. There's only dark. Nug life is here to stay. Let's go.
All right. Well, to cheer things up, to spice things up tonight's episode, we did invite another special guest. We're joined tonight, and we're very excited to welcome from SB Nation's IndyCornrows.com, it's Kaitlin Cooper.
Yay.
Hey! There you go.
Hooray.
Kaitlin, what's up?
Hey, good. Hey, Denver.
Hey, Denver.
This is probably the most depressing way to welcome you onto our show. But,
yeah, we're usually excited and hyped, and there's air horns.
Yeah.
Not so much tonight. But how are you doing, Kaitlin? How has Tuesday treated you so far?
Today is a weird day. You guys are tracking COVID tests, and I'm searching for secret power forwards that Paul George recruited 3 years ago.
Oh, that's right.
Oh. Did I see that you said it was Paul Millsap, or was it were you quote tweeting somebody that said it might have been Paul Millsap?
No, I was just assuming it was Paul Millsap because he said it was the best power forward, so I was like, well, that must be a free agent. Makes sense.
That is the best power forward. What
great
apparently
logic.
He
was talking about Anthony Davis.
Doesn't it seem like Paul George's story has changed seemingly every month? Like every time he speaks.
He talks in a lot of circles. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't know what you guys are talking about. What are you guys talking about?
He did a podcast, and he went on it last night with Quentin Richardson, and he said that in 2017, before he left, he had asked the Pacers to get the best power forward, or he had successfully recruited the best power forward. And the Pacers were like, no, we're a small market. We can't afford to do that. And so he was like, okay, peace out. I'm out of here. And that's how it all went down. Like contradicting the gut punch narrative. So, but later on, like the Indy Star's reporting, it was Anthony Davis, which I don't understand at all. So.
All right. There's 0% chance that the Indiana Pacers said, you know what? No,
we're
going to pass on that. We're good.
Yeah. We're good.
We'll just let Paul leave. He probably wants to
stay. You know who was on their roster in 2017? I do not know who they were trading to the Pelicans.
That's what I was going to ask.
With 2 years left on his contract, it's pretty much Miles Turner, Monte Ellis. There you go.
Yeah.
I bet they're enticed by that. I bet they're like, that is too good to pass.
We should fire up the trade machine and see if that works.
Are there any Paul George stands left in Indy, or has that train left the station?
It's a thin crowd. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd rather take it this way. I prefer that he told the Pacers that he wanted out. They got 2 All-Stars in return, so that's better than a ghostwritten letter as a consolation prize. As Gordon Hayward left the Jazz. So.
There's going to be a lot of small market energy and small market
it's the smallest of energies tonight. I can't wait.
I can't wait for it. I'm telling you, this is part of the show. Is the Pacers are the Nuggets of the East. That's my opinion. Yeah. That's my take. So they're sister teams and cities.
We'll spend a good amount of time talking about the Pacers tonight, but this is a Nuggets show, and we of course have to open the show addressing the big news from about 5 hours ago. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski tweeted, reporting with Windhorse ESPN, Nugget star Nikola Jokić tested positive for the coronavirus in Serbia.
Kale, that was your cue. I'll get it. I'll grab it.
And his return to the U.S. is temporarily delayed. We'll do it live. He's been asymptomatic since testing positive last week. That line's important. I'll repeat it. He's been asymptomatic since testing positive last week. Jokić is expected to be cleared to travel to Denver within a week. I'll start with you, Adam. On a scale of 1 to 10, how surprised are you by this news?
3. I mean, when the news hit, I was like, taken aback, I guess, because it's a little bit of a like, oh my God, there it is. It became real. But let's be honest, guys. He went to Serbia. First of all, he flew to Serbia. He traveled internationally. He was at this arena, which other people have all tested positive. There've been like a bunch of people that tested positive. No mask, hugs. We saw that behind the scenes. We were kind of like, my God, man. Like I know all these players have been out, and not everybody has been sheltering in place and avoiding everything. But when we saw that, my personal opinion was I would not at all be surprised. So when it happened, I would say very, very mild surprise.
Wind?
Yeah, I'd say maybe a little higher. I'd say like a 4 or 5. When the Jokić news came out Tuesday morning, like that's really when I was like, all right, maybe we're going to get this news later today. I mean, they were sitting on the bench together at that exhibition game. They were sitting right next to each other. They were hugging each other. So, I mean, when I saw that, I was like, okay, we're probably going to get this later today. But I still feel like there's a lot of like sticker shock when players are testing positive. Yeah. And starting tomorrow, because today was the first day where NBA teams were testing all their players for coronavirus and an antibody test. I feel like that sticker shock is going to go away because these are going to start rolling in, I think, starting tomorrow.
And I'm surprised that this leaked today because, to your point, tomorrow I do expect there to be a handful of positive tests. So why did it get out today where Jokić now takes center stage and all attention is on him? I think that's a little bit weird.
It's because of the Jokić news. That came first, and then it was just like...
You think everybody? They were just crying.
It was like okay,
Serbia?
I mean, I think it's like once that dam broke, it's like all right.
Well, also if Woj wants to be the one to break it, how long does that stay secret in Serbia? Yeah. So maybe that's something.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'll go to me on this one. I give it a 7 because I was the denial is not just a river in Egypt; it's also a place that I like to live more often than not, and so I was not allowing myself to even entertain the idea that my beautiful baby could be tainted in any way. And then when it happened, you just get that hard rush of reality. Well, I mean, not you. Obviously, all of 3 of you are rational. I'm talking about me, my reaction. And it all came down like a ton of bricks. And I was like, oh, no, the darkest timeline's upon us. But I was overreacting. So I don't know. But I was shocked because I wasn't ready for it.
I chose to react to that video with excitement. Because it's just been so long since we have any. There was good news in the way Jokić was presenting himself, but
he looked thin. Yeah,
I think the reality is like
for sure.
He's also like a kind of like when he's feeling jovial, he's kind of a handsy dude. Like he high fives, he hugs. You know what I mean? He gets close to guys, and just watching those videos, you're thinking, well, once the news broke of the first positive result from someone that was there, it kind of felt like it was a matter of time. Kaitlin,
I wanted to know, because we're all in the thick of this, but I wonder what Kaitlin thought of it when she saw it, because I'm guessing you haven't been obsessing over Jokic's like weight and appearance and like where he was physically on a map. But when you heard it today, what was your thoughts?
I mean, I follow you guys, so I knew that he had been over there and that he was skinny. But two Suns players tested positive today too. I think that got released like a few hours ago. And
I missed it. I did not know that.
Yeah, and then I think that didn't Woj say that 4 people from a Western Conference team tested positive as well? I mean, that could be those. It could be Denver or it could be Phoenix, I guess. But
this is just going to pile up. Every team's going to have at least one.
Well, I guess my overarching take is I just don't want there to be any long-term effects, and obviously just hope that everybody gets healthy. Yeah. I mean,
that's the scariest part. Yeah, that's the scariest part about this, I think. We still don't really know what the long-term effects are. Like, most of these guys are asymptomatic. Most, if not all of them, have been asymptomatic. They seem to have recovered fine. But we don't know what the long-term effects are going to be down the line. So it's scary.
Yeah, it's not something to be too flippant about. You know, you don't want to be like, hey, I'm glad he got it because that means he'll probably be immune during the tournament, right? This is a human and not a basketball. Right. Even if you were following that logic, you just want to be careful because you don't want anyone to test positive for this when we know so little about what happens next.
I am curious if this is how it's going to roll out, though. So you just mentioned that they said some Western Conference players, because obviously people have been a little bit different about protecting their own privacy. Some people have come out and said, oh, yeah, I got it, and want to talk about it. And then some people don't want anybody to know. So I'm really curious over the next 2 days if we hear so-and-so got it, or this team had so many players get it, or just 28 players tested positive, and we're not going to tell you anything about who it was or what have you. I'm kind of curious to see how the NBA handles that. But it's not just the NBA. We know this. Leaks get out of people didn't want that news. They didn't share that news personally with somebody, but it got out somehow to somebody that shared it. So I think that's another piece of this that I'm kind of curious to see how it unfolds.
For those curious, the exact tweet, the other Woj tweet we're referencing, as coronavirus testing for players heading to Orlando starts today, teams are bracing for significant numbers of positive tests. One Western Conference playoff team had 4 positives in the past few weeks per sources. Full training camp start on July 11th at Disney. Wind, I don't know if you've done the math on that. I don't think that's the Nuggets, right? I mean, we can't know, but
No.
I don't know. I think the concern is, though, they're testing players every other day. That's mandated by the league now. The workouts are still voluntary. But the guidance from the league is, yes, like, you're supposed to be quarantining in your houses, like, during this time between now and July 7th through 9th when teams leave for Disney World. But, there's no way to really enforce that. So, like, guys are still out. Guys still could be catching it and bringing it to a team facility the next day.
Right.
That's scary because if it gets inside a team facility, that could pile up as we get closer to July 7th.
Well, and don't forget, Michael Malone had coronavirus. Like, we don't know who he came in contact with and what that timeline looked like.
it is
I
wild.
think
that
they said that the Phoenix players were at the practice facility, didn't they?
Yeah,
I think that was
and-
the report out of the Arizona Republic this afternoon.
And they had to shut down the facility they were using.
Yeah. Wow. In Major League Baseball, Charlie Blackmon as well. We just found out. I mean, that one just came across the wire. So all these leagues now bringing people back and testing. I think it's going to be, there's going to be a lot. I think the next 2 weeks we're just going to have reports across all leagues, all teams.
Specifically for Denver, we have now Von Miller, Charlie Blackmon, Nikola Jokić.
Oh, wow.
This is like our Mount Rushmore. All coming out together.
Wow.
Like,
Oh, wow. I didn't think of that.
So, Wyndham, talk to me like I'm a Nuggets fan who is in panic mode and doesn't have the information. What comes next? What lies ahead for Jokić and sort of what does the timeline look from here, to your knowledge?
Well, he's still in Serbia, and like Woj tweeted, this wasn't something that happened like today. He got the positive test last week, so he's been quarantining in Serbia for like a few days now. I don't know the exact time frame, but the Nuggets are hopeful he'll be back in around a week. He'll obviously have to test negative in Serbia before coming back here, but maybe a week until he gets back to Denver.
And this week was all individual workout things. I'm not trying to diminish it because, again, we have no idea when he returns or even if he returns or what have you. But if it was the 14-day mandate that the NBA had said, he would be back before the team assembled as a team. I mean, what he would be missing at this point is probably pretty minor. But again, we have no idea.
Right, or if he's even going to feel up to participating in an endurance sport. But then again, he's asymptomatic. So we got some other news today, guys. I'm loading this tweet here from friend of the program, Dave Dufour of The Athletic. It's
we have so many
slow.
friends.
I don't know if you can notice.
You almost don't even have to load it, to be honest.
Schedule release is now scheduled for a Friday night broadcast on ESPN, per sources. So those schedules are not confirmed, guys. We sort of joked about that last night.
Really?
But a broadcast show, I guess we're that starved for content.
Yeah, we are absolutely that starved for content.
Caitlin, will you watch that? Will you watch an ESPN show that tells you what the schedule is?
I watched the horse tournament, so I'm thinking I'm probably going to watch it.
Good answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not super excited about this schedule release. I'm like at a 5 probably.
You know what? That's what everybody else was yesterday. A 5. All right. That's
everything
not
gets rounded up in the.
I was a 10.
5's now a 10.
This is content, baby. This is content.
Well, it will be now with all the actually having a show while maybe tests are coming out.
I know.
That's going to be really, really uncomfortable.
If
We
they're
got to
having
get a
show,
graphic
though-
together and everything.
If they're having a show, though, this suggests to me that it's going to be slightly different than what the schedules we already know are. Because if we already know what the schedule is, why do we need a program?
Is it? Do you
I
think
don't
it's
know.
more just like what days everything are happening?
Yeah, that'll
I mean,
be
it's going to
in
have
the
to be
time
in
slot?
order.
Yeah, that's true.
Can't wait to find out.
It's a hard thing to react to, too, because we also, maybe when the season was still going, you could look at like a certain amount of games and try to predict how they're going to go. But we still don't know how each team is going to approach this, what type of players they'll be bringing to Orlando, whether these will be sort of tryout games, right, for guys like Wind alluded to, or teams bringing their best talent and compete. It's like difficult to even look at this and say, okay, this is good for the Nuggets or this is good for the Pacers. You know,
Yeah.
I just feel like we have no information at all right now.
Well, should we try to pick things up in segment 2?
Let's go down. Let's go further down.
Well, let's go into a break. We'll reset the energy.
Look at this. Look at the energy.
Yeah.
From those vibes.
Let's talk about
Music is loud. That's loud.
Let's go back
big
and talk
vibes.
about our fears in life.
There we go.
Well, if you guys want to take the edge off, pick up some Mile High City Copper Lager from Breck Brew. You can't miss it. It's got that Nuggets skyline blue with the Nuggets logo on it. Get it from Davidson's. There it is.
Oh, look at that.
There it
I'm a
is.
little edgy, personally.
Beautiful beer. Pick it up from Davidson's or Breck Brew itself. Davidson's has curbside pickup and delivery. Also, check out the Jokić pack, the 15-can sampler from
Yeah.
Breck Brew as well.
Nobody's calling it that today.
Yeah, this brew is it's clean. This brew has tested positive or
Or
negative.
deliciousness, right?
Also, guys, golf is here. Of course, we got another full weekend of golf ahead of us. Even though the trophy is reserved for the winner, the big cash winnings don't have to be. To add to the excitement, DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting you in the center of the action with a sign-up bonus for up to $1,000.
Who's playing this weekend? Do we know? Like, is like, I think I saw it was called like the Safeway Open or something. It wasn't that? I don't know. Is it like the big names? And when I say big names, I only know Tiger Woods. I don't know any other.
Wow.
golfers.
I know that one in Phoenix is coming up, isn't it? Like the one that's just a party.
Probably. Come here for all of your golf info, guys.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the tournament this weekend, but there is a tournament this weekend, and you can bet on it with DraftKings Sportsbook. So make sure you download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code DNVR when you sign up. For a limited time, all new users can get a sign-up bonus for up to $1,000. That's right, DraftKings Sportsbook is going all out with a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. Just enter the code DNVR when you sign up, only at DraftKings Sportsbook, the Travelers Championship.
Much different than the Safeway Open.
Well, maybe I didn't fully fact check my notes here.
Adam, he's a big golf guy, but not that big a golf guy. He's still.
He's just literally
He's turning into a bigger golf.
He's more of a tall golf guy.
That's
with,
true.
with very little knowledge.
Very tall. Not very tall.
Yeah. Finally, must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Bonuses comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires a 25 times playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. What was that?
He's talking to his daughter.
He's talking to his
You guys want
daughter.
to talk about big golf guy? We have my daughter running around. Golf club
Oh, that's
as we
good.
speak, so this will.
Go take that to Daddy's car.
Yeah, keep her away from the SUV.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Make sure your daughter hears that out.
Okay, I'll make it. Let's talk about some Pacers.
Yeah,
Man,
all
I feel
right.
irie now.
So
I'm so glad that music came on.
segment 1 was depressing, but we have an actual basketball mind with us here, guys. So
We
let's talk
do?
let's talk about actual basketball.
He's talking about me. Yeah.
No pressure, Kaitlin, but that is you. It's definitely not any of us. So just generally speaking, sort of a big question I've asked kind of anyone who covers a certain beat or can offer insight into the perspective of a certain team going to Orlando. How is Indiana looking at this? Are they believing in themselves and their ability to win a title? Or are they there to gather some more data and maybe answer some key questions as they head into the summer? What's just sort of like the realistic perspective on the Pacers' path ahead?
I think there's a lot they need to glean from it, but I don't know how much you're going to actually be able to glean from this. Like, I think they need to actually get a settled feeling on how the Turner-Sabonis pairing is actually working in a playoff scenario, because that is evidence that they have. It hasn't been great against the top 6 teams in the Eastern Conference. That net rating's pretty dicey when the two of them are out there, but they need to see how that's going to be, whether they're playing Miami or Philadelphia or Boston. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know how much to take away. I mean, they don't have a lot of data points in general because their starting lineups play less than 100 minutes together.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had so many people in and out of the lineup, so I don't really know what to expect from Victor Oladipo when he comes back. If he comes back, I mean, he's apparently on the fence about even playing, so or at least going to judge out his knee. So that's
Do you think he should come back?
picture. I mean, he's going to be in a contract year, so I can understand if he wasn't super thrilled about it.
Yeah.
He had other setbacks after he came back from the knee injury. He had swelling, he had an ankle injury, he had a back injury. So, I mean, big picture, I would rather that he's healthy and he comes back next year than he goes to go do whatever this turns out to be. I don't really know.
I know. Whatever this is, that's kind of where we all are.
So it's not sounding like you're viewing this as a title they can mess around and steal this year.
If they're on Milwaukee's side of the bracket, I would say no. I mean, most definitely no. I don't think that's not a matchup that works particularly well for them. If you look at Milwaukee's 8 losses, that's pretty interesting because other than when they lost to the Pacers, when
They
Giannis
only
was
have
out,
8 losses on
Yeah.
the season.
It's ridiculous.
Like in January.
they all have something in common. They all definitely have something in common. Other than when they lost to the Pacers, when Giannis was out, all of those opponents made 15 or more threes on over 35 attempts, which is not something the Pacers are going to do in a game. And Sabonis hasn't been great in those matchups because Milwaukee's so great at taking the rim away, so that's been kind of a tough matchup. And then when Miles Turner's out there, he's never really getting to pull Brook Lopez into space. Like Miles Turner's at the stretch 5, you'd be able to pull him around from the rim, but Giannis is always guarding Miles. So, and there's just cross matches at every position, and then you're playing in a track meet with the team that's best at being in a track meet. So, I don't have really high hopes for a Milwaukee matchup, but I don't think there's other teams that are just going to like blow them away outside of Milwaukee. Like I think they can hang and make those series tough with most of the other opponents.
You referenced that Turner-Sabonis pairing. What isn't working? What does work? I mean, to me, my outsider's perspective is both short and long term. Indy really wants that pairing to work, right? To be the best version of themselves. So, does it to your estimation?
Just for like a little bit of background, like last year when they headed into the season, Nate McMillan was basically like, well, they're both 5s. Like we're not going to be playing them a lot together because they're both 5s. And the minutes that they did play together was mostly just an attempt to get Sabonis extra minutes on the floor. So when they were out there, they were not really running tailor-made sets for 2 centers to be on the floor. You weren't seeing a lot of horns or a lot of roll replace, and quite frankly, you still don't see a lot of that. But I would say before this hiatus took place, it was probably looking about as good as it has looked just because they were experimenting with a couple different things. Like instead of being really strict with the matchups, if they're playing like at Dallas or Milwaukee, Miles Turner was guarding Giannis or Miles Turner was guarding Porzingis, even at the risk of displacing his rim protection just because that was the better matchup. And Miles had good possessions there. They were finishing games, which for the most part at the beginning of the season, you would not see them on the floor together at the end of the game. That was usually Sabonis, and they'd play smaller. And sometimes they'd switch everything with like a Justin Holiday out there at the 4 with TJ and Malcolm and Jeremy Lamb and now Victor. So, yeah, they had a really good play where they ran roll replace at the end of a Portland game, and finally, they were both involved at the same time. But I'd like to see them be moving more at the same time in equal opposite directions, more where it's more dynamic and you're stressing that 4-man as a tagger, and you don't see a lot of that. Some of it's a case of Miles kind of knowing where to spread to and where to cut in the offense. This is his first year playing full-time at power forward, so there's been an adjustment period there, which hasn't been without its hitches. I mean, he went on a podcast. He went on CJ McCollum's podcast, and it was kind of the weirdest thing. He said that over the summer that the Pacers told him to work on his post game, so he was totally devoted to trying to work on post moves. And then when he showed up at Summer League, they were like, well, you're the 4 and we need you to spread to the corner. And he's like, but I didn't prepare for that. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Exactly how that got lost in translation is like completely beyond me, because they knew Sabonis was going to be a starter. One of them was going to have to spread. You cannot have 2 bigs in the paint at the same time. Obviously, he was the more capable choice in that. So how that message got lost clear until like December, I don't really know. But that's the status of the pairing as we enter into the unknown.
How do you feel about each player? I mean, here in Denver, this has been a couple years now, but you had Jokić and you had Nurkic. They were probably number 1 and number 2 in terms of prospects that Denver had at that point. And it very quickly became clear they had to trade one. If pressed, how would you lean there? Like, who would you prioritize?
I mean, I think it really depends on who they'd be able to get in return. I think Sabonis is more central to, maybe more valuable to the Pacers, whereas Miles Turner might be more valuable to other teams in trade talks because they're going to see him as an easier fit. My guess is that would probably be Miles that would be on the move if I had to estimate, because Nate McMillan's more of a defensive-minded coach, and they have a pretty good track record of bringing in guys that don't necessarily have defensive reputations and making it work, whereas Sabonis is kind of their security blanket offensively. Like Nate McMillan doesn't have necessarily the most creative sets in the world, but you always have Sabonis as a backup to run dribble handoffs or whatever. Like the highest compliment I can give him is I really can't name that many actions that do not actively involve him in some way, shape, or form, other than when they would run like pick and pop with Miles or when they're just getting out in transition. I mean, that's the honest to goodness truth. So
when you say other teams might see Turner as someone who's a better fit, that's because of the skill set, because he can stretch the floor a little bit. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I would say mostly just because of his floor spacing. I mean, and obviously his rim protection. I mean, that's not underrated at all. He's improved in that. Or, I mean, not overrated at all. He's improved in that over the last 2 years, definitely, with just not getting knocked off the scent as a roll man. He's not the strongest at defending his own position against more imposing big men. They've definitely struggled against like Embiid's in the past. He tends to pick up fouls pretty quick, but as a pick and roll defender, he's great at swallowing up those actions and getting back. His closing speed to the rim is pretty absurd. I mean, he's a guy who can literally go out and hedge and still get back and get a block. So
from the Nuggets perspective, it's Sabonis that scares me. That dude is a beast. That guy can
Very,
play.
very few players that play like Jokić like outduel him.
Right.
And because usually, like, if a guy gets the better of him, it's usually a bad player that's like super athletic. So it's just somebody that he's not necessarily concerned by, but that Rashawn Holmes has like really destroyed Jokić a handful of times, or Willie Cauley-Stein. It's like clearly Jokić he can destroy this guy, but the guy's just working a lot harder. It's rare that a player that has sort of his similar skill set sort of out Jokić as Jokić. But Sabonis, I believe, did it twice this year. Once his first triple-double of his career, and then I think the first time they matched up, he had a nice game.
The second game, definitely. I mean, actually, both games were pretty interesting with the pick and roll coverage. But in the second game, I mean, you guys were missing a bunch of starters. I think you were down like 2 or 3.
Right.
I don't think Jamal Murray played. I don't think Gary Harris played.
Yeah, that does sound right. Yeah,
I don't remember. I think another person didn't play too. But pulling middle on his pick and roll possessions out of those blitz traps didn't work particularly well. I mean, that's how the Pacers kind of made leeway there, was getting Doug McDermott in the corner, and that's what you give up with the blitzing coverage. So, but in the first game, it was actually the reverse of that, because in the fourth quarter, which I don't know how much they actually run Murray Jokić pick and roll, but they ran it a ton against the Pacers in the fourth, and they just completely shredded them. I mean, if you go back and watch it, it was like 7 possessions in a row where they just scored out of shape-shifting Murray Jokić pick and roll. So
yeah, they run it a lot.
Yeah, they run a lot of those.
A lot. Yeah.
The other big question for when I just look at the roster, Brogdon and Oladipo, we don't have a ton of data points on how those guys look together, but just kind of what's your take on the two of them, because they both are making a lot of money. They're both very good players.
They still need to sort some stuff out, I would say, definitely, where just you can tell that there isn't a lot of continuity there between actions, where it's a little bit more your turn, my turn, and just kind of settling out those roles. Because I think Brogdon, you get a little bit more as a passer in terms of levels and spots on the floor that he's going to find, whereas with Victor, you're just getting more dynamism, obviously, but Malcolm's three-point percentage has really plummeted with the Pacers this year, and that's in part because he's having to create more out of the point guard position rather than getting spot-up opportunities that he might get out of Victor's gravity. But you've definitely seen the loss of Milwaukee's gravity from the switch to where he is with the Pacers. But, I mean, he's been really good on pull-up twos, so which is kind of a key part of what the Pacers do a lot of the time. But I just like to see him have a little bit more where all four of Sabonis, Brogdon, Miles, and Victor are involved at the same time, whether it's running stampede actions or whatever it may be, where you're flowing in from one action to the next. And they really haven't had any opportunity to work on that. I mean, like I said, it's less than 100.
Yeah.
I mean, it might even be less than that just on the four of them, because Brogdon had his quad muscle injury here right before the hiatus occurred. So
it's crazy because the Nuggets starting five has spent so much time together. Kaitlin, what are your thoughts on
Your boy?
Who was I?
Justin Holiday.
Justin Holiday, sorry.
Who your boy is.
I've been trying to get Justin
for you, but I was like, you know what? I'll let Win do it. I know.
I've been trying to get Justin Holiday to the Nuggets for years. Is he the most, or one of the most underrated players in the league, or is that just me?
No, Justin Holiday is delightful. Like, definitely has reason to be delightful. Yes. This is the description I always give for Justin Holiday, which I don't know how much Nugget fans are going to be familiar with CJ Miles, but
of course,
before Paul George,
All-star.
before Paul George was out, right when he came back from his injury, I mean, there was all the debate about whether Paul George was going to play at the 4 or not. And CJ Miles kind of volunteered himself at tribute to play 4, and it did not go particularly well. He got worn down, and it kind of made his 3-point percentage go up and down. Justin Holiday comes in this year, and he's been the actualized version of what they needed CJ Miles to be like 2 or 3 years ago. He plays the 4 off the bench for the Pacers with Sabonis kind of acting like the through line for that unit. And they have like run the most like lyrical swirling offense. It's delightful with Justin Holiday out there. Then they come out and they can do switching lineups. Like the only downfall is he does get like he's going to get backed down by bigger 4s. They give up some stuff there, not necessarily out of post ups, but out of rotations out of post ups where like you're going to have to sink in and then they're giving up offensive rebounds or whatever it might be. But Justin Holiday was, I think, the second to the last person they signed, and he's might be their most important like free agent. Well, that's not true. Malcolm obviously is.
Wrote a Justin Holiday piece on our podcast.
I know. We'll send you the transcripts.
Kaitlin, I have an unfortunately open-ended question for you.
Can we go to some questions real quick first?
Sure.
First, we have.
Let's get that one.
Oh,
first.
yeah.
And then we got a handful of them here. If you
I can't read any of these.
care to comment, anybody? I guess the Brendan shirt one. Sorry.
That one's in English. I don't even remember what I was going to do now. I had a pretty good segue.
Did I really
You had an open-ended question.
Yeah, because I'm not good at asking questions, but hopefully you'll get what I'm
Well, actually, I did want to ask
for.
one, and this one might be painful.
Damn.
Honest question. This might be painful. Who would you rather have right now heading into the bubble? Doug McDermott or Gary Harris?
Oh, God.
Oh, wow. That is kind of a tough one. I mean, what is wrong with Gary Harris this year? I need to
we
know
don't
the
know.
answer
We
to
don't know.
this question. I can't answer this completely without this. I mean,
Worth noting, he looked like he was trending up towards the end of the season.
The last 4 games,
He's rounding into form.
If you really cut off the basketball
Kevin
reference,
Pritchard. He's still the GM in Indiana.
I think I would rather have Doug McDermott just so I can make a Doug McNuggets shirt.
Oh, that would be a good one. You know, this is the craziest thing. The reason I asked that, obviously, is because they were traded for each other on draft night. And never has a trade been universally said like Nuggets won. This is a 10-0 trade. Like, oh my God, they killed it. And now Nurkic is gone. He was part of that trade. Gary Harris isn't that great and very expensive. And it's like, wow, did Denver?
he isn't that great.
5 years later. I mean, look, I know this is crazy. This is probably Stockholm syndrome or something crazy, but I kind of still believe in Gary. I still have like this little bit of hope that his shot.
You have a little bit of a feeling. Right?
I don't have. I do not have a feeling. I do not.
There's a
have
feeling going at least to this top row up here. Me and Harrison are starting that off.
But I've just never seen a trade that was so like the grade A, and like now 5 years later, it's like, well, I don't know, maybe B minus.
Give it
Nuggets could use some outside
satisfactory.
I mean, my Doug McDermott take, I guess, would be that he has a definite wavelength with Sabonis off the bench when they're running handoffs. They have great chemistry. But in a playoff situation, I wonder if a team is switching or jumping off to his right hand when they're coming off a handoff, which you can see this at times. Is he getting his shots off quite as easily? Because he's more of a guy that he's great at coming into 3 off of motion. Rather, I mean, he can hit spot up 3s too, but really he's finding his footing coming off like a wide pin going from left to right or whatever that might be. So I think that you might be able to negate some of what he does because he's not super like going to put the ball on the floor off of people jumping off to his strong hand. But at the same time, like a year ago, they would like Sabonis would get people pulling middle on pick and rolls, and then they didn't really necessarily have somebody to throw the ball to like they did against Denver in the corner. They have Doug McDermott, so I count on him as a reliable 3-point threat, which is something the Pacers would need, and hopefully he can keep up the momentum that he had before the hiatus started, and that carries over. So I mean, I don't feel bad about having Doug McDermott.
Yeah.
Sounds like
He pumped the Nuggets a little bit.
that sounds like a Wancho situation to me. That's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah, I still believe in Wancho. So, I mean, Minnesota, by the way, all about my Minnesota people I follow are just like raving about Wancho. They're digging into the numbers and discovering what we have long known, which is that Wancho doesn't always look great, but he always bumps the team up. He always makes them look. He always makes them better.
Let it go.
I'll never let it go. But I do have a question for you, Kaitlin, here about the future because I think this is the most interesting. I've said I think.
You stole my question.
Well, you were gone. The Nuggets
I've been trying to ask this question for 5 minutes. Damn.
All right, go for it. I'll let you do it.
No, I already admitted mine's not really well formed, so you got it. Yeah.
Well, I just want to know who's closer to a title, and you can define that however you want, but just both teams have really good teams that nobody takes seriously. Are either one of them close to a title, and if so, who's closer?
That was better than mine. Good job.
I just want you to know that I toiled over this question for quite some time today.
Oh, okay.
So I blame you for that.
You knew it
While
was
I was
coming.
trying to track down secret power forwards, you were distracting me with ceiling questions. I mean, I have questions about the Nuggets in order to answer this question.
Okay.
Like, what is the plan if Millsap and Grant are both gone?
Well, that's a good question.
That is a phenomenal question.
I wish I had a good answer.
You know what I actually think? My personal belief is that the Nuggets would try to get a 1-year deal with Mason Plumlee, some type of short-term deal with Mason Plumlee, where they feel that they could trade him and use that as a stopgap to try to make a plan from there.
So we're talking double centers.
Yeah, but that lineup in a regular season has been very good.
It needs shooters.
We now have
It
2
needs
years of
shooters
data
around.
that it's actually a very strong lineup for a bunch of different reasons that I've laid out before, namely offensive rebounding, and it really works with how Jokić plays. But it isn't a long-term solution, and it's certainly not a playoff solution. But it might be if they lose both Millsap and Grant somehow this summer, they are in a world of hurt and would have to make that sacrifice as a stopgap.
That would be stunning if they lost both of them.
It
That would
Yeah,
be stunning.
that's the real answer.
They
I
would just
expect
go
that.
blitzkrieg
would-
for Bertans, right?
There's really no reason they would lose both of them because they could give the necessary money to one of them if one was like
They would
"All right, I'm outta
overpay
here."
they would overpay
Yeah.
if they had to, what be it Millsap or Grant.
And the Millsap thing doesn't really have to be danced around. I mean, maybe he changes his mind, but he's been very open about his desire to come back. So that is expected. But, that's...
Yeah.
DeAndre Jordan changed his mind after being locked in a house, so I guess anything's...
And also, like, what does Millsap look like next year? I mean, he's not getting any younger.
I'll tell you another solution here is that Michael Porter ends up playing a lot of power forward. I mean, this is against everything that we know about Malone, but Denver, if we recall 2016, that team, the December 15th game featured Danilo Gallinari and Wilson Chandler. They played small, and their offense was incredible for 4 months. Now, their defense was horrible, but Denver might be placed into a position where either they start that or they just play that lineup with Jokić and Porter at power forward and just try to outgun people for 10 minutes a game while they mix in other lineups.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically talking about making the jump from good to great, which is a pretty difficult. I think that's the case for both teams. So, and the other thing that's interesting is both of these teams, for whatever reason, never get to the free throw line and take very few threes. And I have questions about the ceiling of that in a playoff situation, as I do with the Pacers. I have some. How dogmatic are the Nuggets with running their blitz defense? Like, do they ever adjust that, or is it pretty much set that that's what they're doing?
No, they adjusted a lot, and actually it's different depending on the personnel that they have on the court. So they'll play Plumlee differently than they'll play Jokić, and then they'll adjust it also by which guards they have out on the court. But
that makes me feel better. So, yeah, I mean, I think both of them are in pretty good positions. I mean, some of it, this is a total cop-out, but I feel like I need to see how this playoff situation plays out.
Seriously,
because I need to know how volatile Jamal Murray is going to be. I need to know what does Victor Oladipo even look like. I mean, I don't know that I would necessarily be concerned if Victor's still not himself in these playoffs as much as I would be if it's like this time next. Well, it wouldn't be this time next year because it would be free agency. But midway through the season next year, if he still looks like that, how he's kind of been over his first 12 or so games here, and then kind of where the Turner Sabonis situation's at. I mean, the Pacers, I feel like, have quite a few tradable contracts that if they weren't super set with where they are at the end of this, Kevin Pritchard's been pretty good about keeping the books clean. So. I don't know. I feel like I could go either way. I'm totally copping out of this question.
Are the
Total
Pacers
cop-out.
in any sort of is the timeline kind of neat? Do you know what I mean? And do they have a lot of outs? Like you just said, there are some tradable contracts. Like for some teams, it might be like for Philly, for example, they got to get this done in a year or two, or that maybe blows up. So where is Indy in that regard?
I mean, I definitely think they need to get out of the first round of the playoffs. They haven't been out of the first round in like 5 years. So, I mean, and obviously you're on a timeline with Victor. He's in his last year of his contract, and who knows, like the Miami Heat are apparently informing people that they're going to sign Giannis and Victor Oladipo. So, whatever cap rules they're using to accomplish that.
And Millsap, apparently.
Yeah,
so.
apparently that's all down the pike. In a year from now, Victor and Giannis both play.
well, that would be miserable for everybody.
This is the small market energy is flaring up. I love it.
What is the biggest myth about the Pacers? So, small market energy question. There's a lot of takes on the national perspective that fly around about the Nuggets. I might point to maybe Jokic's weight being a concern when at times it actually wasn't. Is there something the public gets wrong about Indiana consistently in your mind?
Just
If there's
on
not
this
an obvious
season?
answer, then-
Just on this season alone?
Yeah, this iteration of the game.
I think I saw it was on one of the segments on ESPN. I don't know which it was. I want to say it was High Noon, which I usually like, but I think it was High Noon. They're discussing the Pacers and whether they were contenders or pretenders, and like one of the arguments for this is like, well, their other players are Sabonis and TJ Warren. I'm like, but Sabonis and TJ Warren are good.
Yeah,
Right.
So, I mean, I guess that would be my biggest take. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people question Sabonis being an all-star, but I'm firmly in the camp that Sabonis should have been an all-star, and that's not just me doing a Pacers take. Like, that was a spot that I think he definitely deserved. So.
I love that. I love basing an entire, like, the whole way you feel about your team off of one segment that aired one time on ESPN.
It was just
I can
the
relate
one
to that.
national. It was just like the one national take I could get
Like,
to.
yeah, the show
There hasn't been a lot
themselves.
of national coverage of the Pacers up until The Last Dance. That was the most Pacer articles I think I've ever seen published in a week's time about the 1998 team, a team that occurred 20 years ago. There was a lot of articles written about them.
Yeah,
For sure.
I'm sure you'd ask Bomani, he'd be like, "No, I don't even remember talking about the Pacers."
There'll be no Bomani slander on this show. Come on now.
That wasn't slander. I'm just saying,
little
it's small
slander.
market energy.
All right, Wendy, it's all
I
you,
know what
brother.
that. Yeah, I know what that music means. So, guys, I'm a couple weeks into my class at MSU Denver Online.
I thought you were going to say
Smarter.
about your spin cycle class, your Peloton class.
Yeah, I don't
that
like that you're
too,
like.
but-
Yeah, I don't like that you look better through your Peloton and you're smarter through your,
Just
your
gaining
online
tons
classes.
of knowledge over the summer, thanks to MSU Denver Online. But it's awesome. My teacher's been great. It's been super enjoyable. I don't know if I was going to like it, like being back in school after a while, but it's been fun. And online classes, if you've never taken one before, I just think the technology now and the teachers that MSU Denver Online has make it really easy and a great place to learn. So if you are a first-time freshman looking to go to college and get an undergrad degree, maybe you're looking to finish up your degree, maybe you're looking to get a second degree, a master's, check out MSU Denver Online. They got tons of classes, awesome professors like Dr. Travis Heath, who we had on our podcast 2 times, a recurring guest
Oh,
on the DNBA show.
friend of the show.
Travis, he may be the only person in the world who tweets, and I'm like, oh, nice. New Travis tweet.
You're like,
Yeah, it just warms your soul. Warms your soul. Yeah, but you can take a class taught by him. So check out all their classes, msudenver.edu/online. Maybe take one this summer.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's all you got? All right.
We're out of the read.
Well,
We're back
exciting.
into the basketball, and I know what we're going to talk about, guys. Isn't that exciting? I'm prepped.
That is.
I'm ready. I'm prepared. Kaitlin recently released on June 19th an article on IndyCornrows.com titled "An Analysis of Domantas Sabonis Doing Point Guard Things." First of all, I love that title. Second of all,
SEO's okay.
we can relate to this. This is one of the reasons why I think we like Sabonis, why we like watching the Pacers. Big men doing point guard things. That's kind of our jam in Denver.
That is our jam.
Of course, in Denver, Jokić has the keys to the offense. It's a full green light. So where does Sabonis sort of fit in terms of how prevalent his playmaking is in terms of what Indiana is trying to do? And does it seem to me like that's a growing thing, his role as a playmaker?
Yeah, I definitely took over big time this year. I mean, in the first unit, he does a lot with everybody's favorite topic, screen assists, where he's
We love screen
Big
assists.
fans of that on the Spurs.
This was my other bonus article, though, is about the nuance of screening. I mean, he's definitely prying people open, whether it's Brogdon or whoever in the first lineup. And then the second lineup, he's doing a lot more with dribble handoffs with their array of shooters. So he's the through line for both the starters and the bench. But, I mean, if you look up on, tracking data on NBA.com, like if you look at who the top passers who record the most passes per game, it's Jokić, Ben Simmons, and Sabonis. So definitely has a prominent role there. His touches are pretty close to being, I mean, of the centers, it's second to Jokić. So
Yeah.
definitely prominent.
Looking at the numbers preparing for the show, I was a little surprised at just how high, because I obviously knew the skill set was similar, but they averaged a lot of assists. I don't want to say the number yet because it would give away a game, but but it was a lot.
Yeah, and that even upticked a little bit after the All-Star break. I want to say that was pretty close to, well, should I say the number? I probably shouldn't be.
Do you have it memorized?
Well, I mean, after
You're
the
gonna
All-Star
be-
break, I'm pretty sure it was close to being around 6. But
Okay, well, I didn't get that specific with these. It's a daily show, Caitlin. I only prepare for so much.
I do have this theory, though, that's backed up by no data. I haven't researched it, but every time Jokić brings the ball up the floor, something good happens. From the eye test, I've come to that conclusion.
An important statistic. That seems accurate.
There's something good seems to happen, and I think a lot of it is just it kind of throws defenses off a little when your center brings the ball up, and that's probably a little of what happens when Sabonis brings it up, right?
Did you read that article? I'm asking.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you definitely read it. Okay.
Yeah.
We're ready to go.
My recommendation would be, if you ever want data on whether Jokić does this or not, just don't. Just go with whatever your gut instinct is, because that was the most painful process of anything I've ever written. That was 2 weeks of time. I know people that are listening to this don't care about the writing process, but I must reveal this anyways.
Well, I asked her actually when we were on here. I was like, how does she have the data on just those specific ones? Because I don't know how to sort it. So it sounds like you sorted it individually.
Did you look at every defensive rebound?
Yes, I watched every defensive rebound and just
love it.
Hundreds upon hundreds to see if he put the ball on the floor. And then I marked all those. Then I had to go into League Pass and watch what happened after all of those. And then
what did the data tell you?
Yeah, and then just my luck though, one of the games was missing, so I had to email League Pass and say, please put this game back up. So then by the time I got back in, that was 3 possessions. So basically what the data says is, to make a very long story short, basically what the data says is that it wasn't a great number off just his individual offense, but when you include his passes, it was better than what they were getting off of just any missed field goal that the Pacers were getting in transition. So they weren't necessarily playing faster either, but I felt like when you watched it that they were moving the ball better whenever he was out there in front. Plus, you're not taking time out for the point guard to dribble it up and enter it to Sabonis at the elbow and then launch into a dribble handoff. He's literally just bringing it up, making contact with a dribble handoff straight off the gate, and then they're flowing and making passes out of that. His handle definitely needs to develop if they're going to be doing this a lot. That's what you'll see in the article, that he's very left-hand dominant, and this is the case in the post too. He needs to develop his right hand, because if it's somebody winning his strong hand, wrapping it behind his back or whatever he'd have to do to maneuver in traffic, it gets dicey. So it's definitely a mixed emotion play, but I love watching it.
It's also 37 possessions, right? Yeah. So I mean, it's enough that 4 more possessions, the data would probably change at least a little bit. Not to say that it's not meaningful. It's just that it's still very, really rudimentary.
He does have some of those clips still a little bit of a bowl in a china shop kind of feel, right? It's a hold your breath and cross your. It's all there, but I think dexterity is the key word I feel like you referred to in that piece. He's a little lacking in that department. One of the differences I feel like between Sabonis and Jokić, Sabonis certainly more athletic, Jokić a little more graceful, a little more fluid.
I love it. He's the only player in the NBA Jokić is more graceful, if that's the case.
Overall, I mean, the one thing in the post, I think he's going to be mauling opponents a little bit more in the post because of what I said before. He's going to go, Jokić goes over both shoulders, and Sabonis, I think he was 8 of 22 total this year on righty hooks. He's just not going to go to his right hand that often, which he's strong enough that he generally doesn't get forced to have to use his right hand. But if you watch opponents when they played the Bulls, and Thaddeus Young, who Sabonis played with for a lot of years, knows what Sabonis' tendencies are, and they're scheming to sit on his right hip so he can't turn middle, it can get a little bit dicey, where I kind of wish that the Pacers ran a few more split cuts to get guys open out of post-ups, because one of their best play types is when he's passing out of the post, out of a double team. They score really well out of that, out of spot-up attempts. Another thing is, you're never probably going to see Sabonis operating out of an inverse pick-and-roll situation where he's the ball handler, where sometimes I think you get those kind of magical possessions with Jokić where he gets to be the ball handler and create out of that.
Sometimes, honestly, it's increased so much now that I would almost call it a frequent play. They don't always result in a shot or whatever, but it just they run it a lot.
Right, and then you'd probably get some more out of drives there too, which is just going to open his passing up more, which the Pacers don't do a lot of with Sabonis, though they probably could, because he's experimented a little bit more with using a keeper when he's on the left side of the floor, which I like seeing. And then Jokić also just shoots threes, Sabonis basically doesn't shoot threes.
Two awesome young players, two players that are very, very fun to compare. And so let's just do it. Let's flesh out the comparison.
Let's do it. Come on.
The newest game sweeping the nation. Jokić or Sabonis.
Oh
my goodness. It's very
Kaitlin,
easy,
this is very, very complicated, so I need you to listen very carefully. I'll only explain it once. We're going to ask you who's leading in which category, and then you tell us.
Okay.
So, you got all that?
I looked at this like a week ago, so I'm hopeful that
Oh my
my
goodness.
memory isn't going to be terrible.
Well, here's what we'll say. I don't know. I didn't explain this to you, so maybe you don't know. But this is actually both their age 23 season. So
Yes.
for Jokić, it was last year. For Sabonis, this year.
Oh.
Okay.
Did
Well,
you look
then,
at
yeah,
that, Kaitlin?
no, I didn't. I'm all shook up now. I don't
You
know
were gonna
what is
look like
happening.
such a fool. Oh
Yeah, and if you get even one wrong, we'll just absolutely trash you.
All right, let's bring that graphic up. Then I'm ready to go.
Well,
What
it
do you need to
doesn't
look at?
hang. It like
Oh, it
disappears.
doesn't?
Yeah. Well, okay. I didn't
so
do everything right.
First category: minutes played, age 23 season. Kaitlin, the floor is yours.
Who averaged more?
Who averaged
Oh,
more?
right.
To be
Oh,
clear.
baby. Can we get the
Sabonis is
steps
at, I
music?
think Sabonis is at like 36 or 37. So I'm gonna go with Jokić because I think he's probably in the games late, and then I think the Denver's played probably more
Bold.
overtime games.
very bold?
The reveal.
I
Should've
wasn't
been
even
more of
right
a
on
homer.
Sabonis's minutes.
You were
They-
close.
Yeah, that's incredible.
35 is quite a bit.
You
The
need to
sneaky
request.
thing about Jokić, and this is part of like his per game numbers, which I think are like 22, 11, and 8 or something, which is incredible. But he doesn't play. He plays like the fewest minutes of a superstar in
Yeah,
the NBA.
and the Nuggets would probably even like to play him slightly less than they do. Just in the
Well,
Well,
regular
this is a
season.
complete departure. Then I should have guessed Sabonis because
You- yeah,
the
you gotta-
Pacers were getting blown out by the Heat by like 20 points, and Sabonis was in with like.
Oh yeah.
You got to write another email to League Pass. You need obviously you're missing some games.
I am.
Next category:
Oh no!
3-point attempts. Who averaged more in their age
boy.
23 season?
Oh boy!
Yeah, this is Jokić.
Okay. Well, we have
Yeah.
It is
Good
Jokić.
job. Good job.
That is correct.
Very good
What
job.
a smile. What a guy.
1.1 per game. That's very
Yeah.
impressive.
Any chance Sabonis develops that aspect of his game, or is that probably unlikely?
Well, he wrote a diary on Pacers.com and said that his dad told him he needs to work on his 3-point shot.
Nice.
And every summer, though, there's a video of him shooting threes in an open
Oh,
gym.
yeah.
Every summer.
There's
Him and
one
the
of
song
JaVale
Whiteside.
McGee too, just so you're.
Oh man, JaVale McGee's video the other day was an all-timer.
I love how Jokic doesn't even bother with the summer, but we don't even get those.
No,
You
no.
don't even see him.
No,
For 4
no.
months, he's just gone.
Well, in Sabonis' defense, I think Team Lithuania posted this video. He was shooting threes with Valanciunas in an empty gym, and it was very telling of how many threes he would take this year, clearly.
Well, those videos are always very informative. Next
Oh, boy.
category:
What is next? Oh, boy.
3-pointers made.
No, 3-point percentage.
Oh, 3-point percentage. Yeah, my
Do
bad.
not
Yeah.
get this wrong, Kate.
Sabonis is at like 25%, and I'm going to guess that Jokić is at like 31. Yes,
Well, that was uncomfortably correct.
I dominated that one.
That was frighteningly accurate.
I'm
You don't have back-
holding up on my screen. So that
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was impressive.
Disturbingly accurate.
I think Jokić, here's my take, guys. I think Jokić is going to be a 37% 3-point shooter for the next, 5 years. That's my prediction.
Do you think the weight loss will help his shot at all?
Somebody DM'd me this saying that it's been proven that lighter weight makes people easier for more repetitive motion or something like this. I was like, I don't know if this is a true thing. But
only
we do
thing
know
that-
that the 1 year he was skinny, he shot really, really well.
And the only thing I'll say is if you go back and watch his film from his first 3 years, his shot was a lot quicker. The release is more compact.
I
It
feel
was
like we can
smoother.
figure this. We can figure this out on our own. Pairs. What are you currently shooting from 3? Harrison?
does he take any
Week 1
corner
into
three?
Peloton.
They actually put the rims back up on.
He almost
Okay.
never shoots from the corners.
Yeah, I mean,
He's
I was
never-
thinking, when would he ever have an opportunity
Yeah.
to shoot from the corner? But he would be getting easier ones if he was shooting. From the
He
corner.
actually is.
When the Nuggets offense goes wrong, he's shooting from the corner
Right.
usually.
They do have just this one play they run for him where he's in the corner as a spot up guy. It's the only time they
Right.
use him as as that. He actually primarily shoots from the exact center of the court, the top of the key. So
Right.
not even the wings.
Let's go to the next category,
Oh
friends.
boy. Ooh.
2-point attempts.
Doctor.
Who averaged more?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing it's Sabonis just because he's never taking any threes. Yeah.
It's
Power
very
of
close.
deduction.
Very close.
But very close. Yeah. So obviously Jokić takes more shots overall, even on lower minutes. The real one though is the next one.
Oh boy.
Well then, let's just go to the next one. 2-point percentage.
What are we screwing around for? Let's get there.
Point percentage. Sabonis is interesting because his mid-range is kind of propping up his field goal percentage this year. So I think this is going to be close. I'm going to go with Jokić.
Look at this.
Wow.
She's right. It was so close. I didn't even call it. It's a tie. It's a statistical tie.
This is literally disgusting. You're like, not only are you right, you're so right. It's making me question whether or not Adam sent you this
I have
graphic.
to make up for how badly I've messed up on the minutes question.
Yeah, you really looked
Yeah,
bad.
that's really lingering in everyone's minds.
I'm gonna wake up thinking about that on my list when I didn't know how many minutes they played.
It is interesting, though. Honestly, like the field goal percentage, you can do the next one, actually. I guess we could talk about it after this.
Well, then let's do that.
Yeah, let's have another one.
Next
Caitlin
category.
get exactly right.
Effective field goal percentage.
Oh.
Ooh, weren't ready for that one.
Now I should be looking at what numbers we just looked at. I mean, I guess it's going to be Jokić.
Go ahead there, Kale. They're actually like pretty tight
in your
again.
face.
They're both. They're so close though. Again, we're within half of a percent here, which is, to me, I find that so fascinating that both guys were basically equally as efficient.
That is fascinating.
Well, I guess that was interesting. Thank you guys. Glad that was as interesting to you as it was
It's
to
a real
me.
think piece, yeah.
a real thinker. All right.
Well, then, we'll just move on. Seems like
Okay.
a good free throw attempts per game. Who averaged more free throw attempts?
I think this is Sabonis. Sabonis seems to be a bit more physical. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned
Still barely.
the weird thing about Jokić. We've talked about this on the show. He draws an enormous amount of fouls. There's none of them are shooting fouls.
Yep.
And he's really good at like drawing off-ball fouls and doing weird little things up top that draw the foul, but he's never like on the block.
The other thing is
When he's setting a screen, he's amazing at just like flopping just enough to get that call when the guy runs into him.
The other thing is that refs have stopped calling anything for Nikola Jokić unless he's like literally tackled. Like his arms just get slapped and slapped and slapped. They're bright red by the end of the game. He gets no calls.
Is it a
hot?
He's too immovable.
Oh, I was gonna say this reminds me of like the most epic moment from a Pacers Nuggets game where Jokić got ejected and Thaddeus Young was so like lost his freaking mind over it that he tapped the referee on the butt in celebration of the ejection.
Oh yeah,
That's right. That's
Forgot
right.
about that.
That was pretty funny. Jokić can be annoying at times. Let's not lie. Let's not kid ourselves. Next one is free throw percentage.
Oh.
Yeah, that's gonna be Jokić. Sabonis had like a rough 2-month stretch there.
Ooh, 72%. That is kind of low. I guess not for a center, for a typical center, but
Are we going through all of these? Or are there 5 more?
we'll go quickly here. Rebounds.
Rebounds is Sabonis.
I was very surprised by
I
that.
was
You're
shocked
right.
by this looking this up before.
This was the one that really, because Jokić rebounds so well, but yeah, Sabonis a monster on the boards.
Yeah.
All right. Assists.
This is a very hard one.
Assists,
Assists. Who
yeah.
averaged more?
Yeah, that's gonna be Jokić by a little bit. Oh,
Isn't
more
that
than I thought.
surprising?
I'm counting that as being
5
wrong.
assists. Yeah.
I would be really surprised. Sabonis 5 assists, man. That's really impressive. Can I, you guys? I really want to share a hot take now. You guys
Oh,
ready
boy.
for this? This is
All
a
right.
pretty spicy one.
Everyone gear up.
I think Jokić is the second most influential player to enter the NBA in the last decade.
Oh.
Number one being Steph Curry. I think Jokić, and I know this is it's a 5 out of 5 peppers
That's a
but
scorching hot take.
until you actually think about it. But listen, I'm not trying to take anything away from Sabonis or any of these other bigs who have sort of operated out from the top of the key or whatever. But Jokić started doing it. It was very effective, and I think a lot of players have followed suit. And I think if you would have said 5 assists per game from the center position like 6 years ago, that would have been like a miracle. Like, oh my God, he's one of the. It's barely even talked about. I think we'll see more and more players that do it. Now, not everybody will be at the level of a Sabonis or of a Jokić, but I just think you're going to see more and more players that they try to mold into this. You can make basic reads in the handoff at the top of the key, and we're going to try to build that as a skill set over your career. Second most influential player. What do you think, Kaitlin?
Who do I think?
No,
Or,
What do you think of this
what do I
insane
think
take?
of that?
You don't have to be
overall
nice, so
take?
you can just.
Well, I mean,
We prefer if not.
Bam is kind of right there too when you think about
100%.
it. He operates a lot
He's
out of the elbows
influenced by it.
too and making passes. So, I mean, I don't know how much the bonus directly is influenced by Jokić. There's definitely comparisons, but I mean, my guess is he's most influenced by his dad. So,
when you talk about a player's skill set and how
yeah.
they developed, yes, but when you talk about an NBA team saying,
and
well,
what's going to be trending, right?
what are we going to trending? Like the same thing with Steph Curry. Was Damian Lillard a great three-point shooter because of Steph Curry? No. But did he
Right.
start taking 8 pull-up three-pointers a game because of Steph Curry? Yes, almost certainly. Somebody had to do it and do it effectively for everyone else to say, well, let me try doing this. And I think it's the same, not just for a player, but for a team when they say, why don't we bring our center off the block up to the top? Why don't we have him do these things? And you just see it. You mentioned Bam. You just see more and more guys doing this. Even Andre Drummond was doing this year, and
Right.
there's no way he was practicing that 5 years ago.
You could probably say Karl Anthony Towns maybe just a little bit too, not to the same extent, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad take.
Yeah.
I
You
think
may have- you may have sold
I
me
think
on
you're
this
right
take.
on. I think you're right on.
I'm sold on this take.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
See, it's a miracle. All right, we'll fly through these last ones and
I'm
get
just
out
trying
of here.
to wrap the show up.
Steals.
Last quarter steals. Who averaged more in their age 23 season? Kaitlin.
Jeez, I don't know. I'm thinking
Don't blow this
Sabonis
one.
has like not many, so I guess I'll guess Jokić out of having no clue.
Jokić
Don't
is
blow
steal
this one.
master.
Oh,
Steal
baby.
master.
Wow.
Jokić
Incredible
gets
Nearly
steals.
double.
Incredible hands.
Incredible hands. Soft hands. Blocks.
Miles is blocking every shot in sight, and Sabonis has no wingspan, so I'm guessing it's Jokić.
Ooh,
Like,
It's
this
a
is gonna
real
be a,
battle
This is low
inside
v
here.
low.
Jokić doesn't
Yeah.
block many shots either. I'm curious to see this.
Go for it, Kill. Blocks, yeah, they're not
Oh.
really. Not
racking
really.
them up.
Racking them up. Rim protectors. Then, of course, points, the big one.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
boy.
Jokić is at what, like 20, and Sabonis is at what? I think 18, 18.5.
Yeah.
I think minus, yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
What?
There you go. A phenomenal performance.
That was
Wow.
incredible.
Historic.
I'm just glad like that
Unnerving
I don't have to
performance.
assist and be a lifeline for somebody on the climb these steps.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Very impressive.
I don't want him to miss out on a prize because of me. Like, do I get a prize for my performance?
Yeah,
from this?
absolutely.
Absolutely
Yes.
not. Come on, we don't.
Oh,
just
no.
do
No,
that.
her prize
We
is
should
my
get on the same
undying
page
respect.
about that.
That's true. That is mine as well.
Huge
My
shouts to
prize is
Kaitlin.
all of your retweets on all future articles.
All right,
Right?
cool.
I write something.
Wow.
It's just it's a blind retweet. It doesn't even matter what I write. It must be retweeted.
Done.
Done. I can do that. Hey, huge shouts to Caitlin Cooper of IndyCornrows.com. Thank you so much for joining us. Great stuff tonight. We appreciate you.
Thanks for
And
listening to me, Denver people.
Anytime. And thanks to you, Denver people, for watching, listening, commenting. We'll do it again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Until then, take care, be safe, stay sane.